Hey everyone, and welcome to another What Sold on eBay video. I'm your host, Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. If you're new to the channel and you want to learn all about different things to sell on eBay for profit, definitely go down there and click the subscribe button. And if anything, definitely go down there and click the like button. It helps the algorithm. It's free, it helps the channel, and I can continue to do these videos. I don't get paid much at all, actually, for the time I put into this stuff. So just going down there and clicking the like button and leaving a comment to just say hello is definitely take a couple seconds out of your time to show me some appreciation to these videos and the knowledge that you will gain. Every one of these videos, you'll learn something new. I can almost guarantee it. And by the way, about learning stuff new, at the end of this video, we have two worth point deep dives to definitely go and check out. So you want to stay tuned to the whole video. So let's get right into it. First up, we have this dulcimer. This is a musical instrument. It's kind of like a lap guitar, and I didn't know really anything about this instrument. I've seen these before, but I've never kind of took a deep dive into these kind of things, and some of them actually go for a pretty crazy amount of money. I thought this was a folk craft one, and it's not, and so I listed this as folk craft. There was no markings at all on this, so I assumed, oh, it's got the folk craft bag. It must be one. There was a lot of them that look similar to this, and I had a customer email me pointing me to the exact maker of this particular custom dulcimer. And like I said, this stuff goes for a crazy amount of money. If it was a folk craft one, it can go from anywhere from $300 to $500 brand new. So definitely look out for these if you're out in the field. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever came across one of these. And if you're unsure what it is, usually if you look inside these little holes, usually there's a paper label. Like in guitars and violins, if you look inside there's usually a paper label saying the maker if it's not on the neck. Usually some of the makers will put something on the neck or even in the hardware up there, the tuning knobs. But this thing didn't have anything. It was actually a pretty good collection here. It's got some music books, some strings, the folk craft bag, and this thing was pretty mint condition. Actually, this thing actually had a crack, and I think I showed a photo of it. There it is. There's the crack, and what happens was I think just storage of this thing put pressure on that and caused a crack. Even with that crack, this thing was a beautiful instrument, and it sold for a little bit over $200. And so just to look out for this thing. This is definitely a bolo instrument, but when you're looking at these, just make sure you're looking for any imperfections or damage or warping or anything like that, because these things, it will change the sound if there's any kind of warping or there's any kind of damage, which will dramatically decrease the amount of money you're going to get for musical instruments. So like I said, dulcimer, I've never heard of it before, but I did learn something new, and hopefully today you learned something new. And by the way, if you did learn something new, if you've never heard of this before, definitely go down there and click the like button. Next up, we have some Nike Air Jordans. This is more bread and butter stuff. Nike stuff is very popular. This didn't even have the shoelaces. It's still sold for $21. Like, this is basically like garage sale stuff. You can find it for a pair of shoes for $2 or $3 at a garage sale. Easy money with Nike. And for those that don't know, some more learning tips. As you can see here, there's that or actually I should say there is that 6-digit -601 number. The first 6 digits is the style number, and the 3 digits after the dash is basically like the colorway. So if you ever want to look up Nikes, that is the go-to thing. And of course, they're nice enough to put the dates on the sides there. You can see this was produced in 2018, and so there's lots of fake Nikes out there. So just be warned, if that number doesn't match up with what you're seeing on eBay, usually it determines it's a fake, and there's lots of different fake Jordans out there. So definitely do your due diligence, especially if they're a higher end one. Usually these kind of run-of-the-mill Air Jordans aren't usually going to be faked. It's usually the limited edition and the really high-end ones that traditionally get faked. So definitely look out for that. Next up, we have another bread and butter item. This sold for $10 plus shipping. This is a Lenovo AC Adapter. Bread and butter, these are basically like a garage sale thing. Usually find baskets of this kind of stuff usually at garage sales, and they sell very well, especially if they're brand new. Usually you can look up a model number. As you can see, that ADFF LX90NCC2A. That's what you look up on eBay. And, for the most part, adapters and chargers, they're anywhere from the $7 to $20 range. There's some of them that are really hard to find that can go for more, but like I said, these are bread and butter, especially if you can get them for 25 cents in a basket. Usually you can lot these kind of things up. So as a pro tip, if you ever go to a garage sale and you see someone that has tons of electronic adapters and things in a basket or a bin, ask them if they'd take, like, depending on what you can see, like, oh, I'll give you $10 for the whole bin. And usually they'll do that, and you can go through them. Now, testing these is another kind of thing. So if they're new, of course, you can see they're in the plastic and everything. But always just specify in your auction that these are untested, and you might get a few returns. But just understand that unless you have the items that this goes to, it's going to be kind of harder to not, just, it's better just to disclose that they're untested. And also with that kind of thing too, just to look at the wires to make sure they're not frayed or there's any damage, external damage, because that'll kind of show you that something might potentially be wrong. Another pro tip with the adapters and chargers is sometimes they have a green LED light that shows that there's power going to it. So if you plug it in and you see that those LED lights do not turn on, that's a clear indicator that there's something wrong with the unit. Just another pro tip when you're dealing with bread and butter AC adapters and chargers. Next up, we have this RayBan. This is authentic RayBan original Wayfarer folding glasses. So Wayfarer is probably one of the most popular sunglass designs of all times. They've been out, I want to say they've been around since the 50s. I could be wrong, maybe the 60s. Those are the ones you really want to look out for. Some of the brand new ones that are like vintage are extremely crazy and hard to find, but they're out there and they go for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Some of those first original ones. This is a fold up one, kind of weird, kind of interesting. And like I said, RayBan Wayfarers, definitely pick these up. They do, there is some fakes out there, so just, when you see these, just kind of feel like, oh, does this thing feel like super cheap, or is there something off about this thing? Especially if you go to like a flea market and there's someone selling like, hundreds of these in plastic china bags and things. You definitely want to stay away from that. Though I think, I forget where a lot of these things are produced pretty much. Let's see if it shows where these are produced. I think some of them are produced in Italy. Yeah, there's a great documentary about sunglasses and their productions in Italy. There's one particular company that makes these. And even though they say made in Italy, I can guarantee that the plastic and stuff is made in China, then probably assembled in Italy. So anyways, definitely look out for Wayfarer. RayBans, they're pretty much bread and butter. This sold for $90 plus shipping. Next up, we have this Bradford Exchange. For those that don't know, Bradford Exchange is pretty much like a Franklin Mint, and if you don't know what Franklin Mint is, definitely go look that up. Like I said, Bradford Exchange is pretty much like Franklin Mint, basically little tchotchke collectible things. This one happens to be a New York Yankees light up thing. It didn't have the charger, so we really couldn't test it. And there was some issues with the button. As you can see here, there's a button right there on the side that you push in and it pops back out, but that function wasn't really working too well. But anyways, we did sell this. Did sell for just over, I think just under $200 for not even being tested. If this thing was brand new and tested and everything, it can easily go for over $300. So definitely look out for Bradford Exchange. And this is basically, you flip it upside down and you'll see the Bradford Exchange is not really super high end. Like I said, they do knickknacks and tchotchkes and limited edition collectibles. And so, when you see this, don't get super excited, but there's some things that are actually worth money. And like every single thing you ever have a question about, just look it up. You never know what you're going to find. This is from the 2009 series. And as you can see, this is edition number A1032, limited edition of 2700. All the information there is official licensed product, Bradford Exchange, just like Danbury Mint and Franklin Mint. And if you don't know those, definitely look them up also and get familiar with those three brands. Like I said, just keep an eye out for any of this kind of stuff. Some of the Franklin Mint and Danbury Mint cars go for a pretty good amount of money, die cast, and that's another video all in itself. If you want to see actually a video about Franklin Mint and Danbury Mint products, definitely leave a comment below, and I will consider doing a video for that. Next up, we have this Hubley. This is a Colt 45 cap gun. Now, for those that don't know, if you're selling any kind of cap guns or any kind of toy guns, you need to put that little stopper at the end. I will leave a link to an Amazon link that they actually professionally make those caps, and you can use like those foam earplugs that are orange. It has to be a particular orange. I forget what it's called. There's a particular orange. If you know what that color is, just leave a comment below. I know I can look it up really easily, but you can use those kind of earplug stoppers, though. Sometimes eBay will call those. They need to be glued on or affixed in permanently. That's another thing too. And you know, there's a lot of people that try to get away with that by just sticking these in, and that's that. So you don't want to really ruin anything by gluing something like that in. You can usually just press it in. But eBay rules say that it needs to be permanently affixed in there, and for the most part, I think this one was permanently affixed in there, and so that is the rules. And so now you know. So if you're ever trying to sell a a toy gun or anything like that, a cap gun, that is the rules. So just make sure that you're doing that. And like I said, this is a Hubley. This is really amazing condition. This sold very quickly at $150. I think because it came with like the little bullets and the holster and everything, and the gun itself goes for, you know, over $100, so look out for that. This just reminds me of the good old times in the 80s. You know, I grew up in the 80s when this stuff was still like politically correct, where you can go, and we used to play cops and robbers outside and had a good time, and those days are long gone. So yeah, if you remember those days, definitely go down there and click the like button. Leave a comment if you remember those days of playing cops and robbers outside. You know, that's a kind of like a 80s and before generational thing, but now it's, you know, good luck doing that anymore. It's like people frown upon that. Next up, we have this spying device from the government. It is an Amazon spying device. It's an Echo Dot. If you have these in your house, definitely go unplug them and throw them in the trash can. Anyways, this sold for $19.99, and the NSA will not be getting a portion of this money, but Amazon definitely will. As a matter of fact, Amazon is giving these away for free at some places. I've seen videos on YouTube where they just like put boxes of these out on the street, and people are free to take these. And so, you know, the spying devices are a huge hit with the sheeple. So definitely go and put these in your house so they can just listen to you all day long. Next up, we have this Starbucks barista. This is an Espresso Machine. SIN006, and I'll show you that number right now. There you go. That's the type, and you definitely want to take a photo of any kind of electronics that you do. Try to take a photo of the specs and the UL recommendations. It can show you like the volts and the hertz and the basically the watts. 60 hertz is basically US, and I want to say European hertz is 50. So if you see 50 hertz, it's usually a European thing, but you can usually tell European and US due to the plugs. This is a standard US plug, and the European plugs, you can definitely tell there's something off. But if you don't have any of that information, the hertz or everything, so you know, 60 hertz in, or actually might be 100 hertz. I got to actually double check that, because I know it's 30 frames per second versus 25 frames per second in film, which kind of correlates to, never mind, I'm not going to get into math and the science behind digital standards across the globe. But anyways, I just totally went on to a sidetrack here. And this was tested, and one of the things was this was tested by one of our employees, and they forgot to take the water out. So when I went to go and take photos of this, I got water everywhere. So if you the water goes in that very rear bucket thing back there that says Starbucks. That's a bucket that pulls out. So you have to unlock this whole thing, pull out this little tray, and pull that out, and that's basically how you do that. And to test it's very easily. You have to actually prime these, and if you don't know what priming is, I'm not even gonna. Anyways, just look out for this stuff. It's out there. You have to test it. You know, these are the kind of things that are a little bit of a pain in the ass, especially to test. But you know, if you can get this for $10 and it works, it makes a pretty good profit off that. Next up, we have this large German Rumtopf crock fermentating. I don't even know. jar, rum, pottery, stoneware. Stoneware is the main word you want to look out for. And I want to say Rumpft is German for rum. That's pretty easy, I guess. But stoneware is the main thing I'm trying to tell you about right here. We're gonna do a deep dive about in the stoneware in just a second, so stay tuned. And this didn't have any real markings on it, which is unfortunate. Usually there's a maker's mark or something on the bottom of these jars, which there wasn't. So, anyways, I just kind of seen things that were sold that were similar. They sold for $49.99, and there's some crazy. Now, stoneware is kind of like this really rustic pottery. It's kind of like semi-matte. Sometimes they're rough, and there's some stoneware that actually goes for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's stuff that goes for thousands of dollars. So just kind of look out for this weird stoneware. There's some really early American stoneware that goes for a crazy amount of money. There's lots of artists that have done different types of stoneware. Like this is basically like your traditional stoneware right here. Like I said, it's a particular brand of pottery that has that rustic, unrefined kind of feel to it. Like there's, those. This is a good example of like the rustic qualities that I was referring to. This, it kind of looks like, they were used. They were used for basically water and wine and different kind of things. They're a vessel, and they kind of look a little rough around the edges. So just look out for this stuff if you're out there. Like I said, not all. A lot of the early mid-century stuff and the stuff that's produced today isn't worth much, but there's some pieces that are worth a crazy amount of money. So just do your research if you ever come across these. And hopefully this video kind of plants the seed for that. And if you definitely appreciate it, I'm going to say it again. Definitely go down there and click the like button. Next up, we have this Waterman red marble pin. This is actually a really cool pin. It's actually made out of marble. I don't know how they do it, but they make it out of marble, and these things are very well known pins. And if you've never heard of Waterman, it's kind of like it's a bolo brand for pins. So if you ever come across these, definitely pick these up. This sold for I think we sold this one for 15 something, and now you might not say like, oh, well, that's not really much, but if you go to a garage sale and they're selling this for like $1 or $2, it's pretty good profit. But Waterman pins, they have some really, really expensive ones. So we're going to take a deep dive here into Worth Point. As you can see here, there's some limited edition ones, some solid gold ones, vintage ones that go for thousands of dollars. So I'm just saying, they're out there. Take a second look at these pins. The Waterman, I mean, even look at this one. This one went for $2,200, and this looks like something that you would find in a junk drawer. So that's just what I'm saying. This one's from 1915, but this could easily be found in a junk drawer in an estate sale. In someone's office drawer. So definitely look out for that. Once again, I'm Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. I really appreciate everyone's answers from last week's show about how long you would like these videos. And the general consensus was just to make the videos, and you guys will watch them. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your likes, comments, subscriptions. And if you're subscribed, definitely go down there and consider clicking the bell for notifications. So every time I go live or there is a new video, you'll be alerted, and I really appreciate that. Once again, I'm Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. I appreciate you tuning in if you stayed this long, and we'll see you next time. Take care.